Okay, the time is 7:30. I'll call this regular scheduled meeting and public hearing of the mayor and council to order. Today is Monday, February 24th, 2014. All members of the mayor and council are present. First, we have on tonight's agenda our invocation. Today, I unfortunately had to attend the funeral of Dewey Moon. Mr. Moon is one of the Moons of Snellville that's been here probably longer than Snellville was a city, and so we ask that you have a moment of silence for Mr. Moon and his family. Thank you. For tonight's announcements, we have the February 25th Planning Commission meeting has been canceled. On March 4th, we'll have a Snellville Days Committee meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Betty B. McMichael Room at Briscoe Park. On March 9th, you can watch a rebroadcast of this meeting on Comcast Channel 25 at 6:30 p.m. March 10th, we'll have our next regular scheduled council meeting and public hearing. The work session will start at 6:30 p.m. in the conference room, and the meeting will begin at 7:30 here in council chambers. March 11th will be a Board of Appeals meeting. Work session will start at 7 p.m., and the meeting will start at 7:30 here in City Hall. And on March 14th, we'll have a blood drive from 1:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the community room. To learn more about blood donation opportunities, visit www.redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. We also have on March 27th, the Snellville Citizen Police Academy will start. The deadline, if you want to apply, is March 20th, and applications are online. We also want to announce that we awarded the Snellville Senior Center Volunteer of the Year Award last week to Wanda Young, who was named by the Parks and Rec Department as a Senior Center Volunteer Luncheon. So congratulations to Miss Young. There are no executive orders tonight. Now for the pledge to the flag. Mr. Snipes, will you lead us in the pledge? We have no ceremonial matters. Now for minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 31st, 2014 special called meeting, the February 10th, 2014 business and public hearing meeting, and the February 17th, 2014 specially called meeting?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emanuel. Motion by Councilman Witz. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. We have no invited guests tonight. Under committee reports, we have a report from Butch Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a short report, an update for everybody with a lot of good news in it. The first thing, Chief Whitehead and his staff have really been looking hard at their personnel situation, and we had a retirement of a long-term employee, Captain Harold Thomas, a couple of months ago, and we have three gentlemen who have received promotions. Instead of replacing Harold from the outside, we've promoted from within. And I hope that if you see these three people around, you will congratulate them. The first one is to fill the captain's position. It's Kerry Roberts. We have a new lieutenant in Rob Pendleton, and we have a new sergeant in Zach Spar. Just three terrific employees who do a good job for you citizens and for the chief every day. And as I said, I hope you will see them and thank them on their and congratulate them on their promotions. I also have some good news on the SPLOST set-aside money. This is the $25 million that is that the county set aside for city projects. And I had a chance to meet with Kim Conroy and his staff. And it looks like the first two projects we'll move ahead with on that are sidewalks. One on Oak Road from where the racetrack ends their sidewalk down to Mountain View with a crosswalk there in front of the Oak Road Passive Park. And we'll also have a sidewalk on from Odom Street to Rockdale Circle on 78, which will fill in the 5 gaps there with the sidewalk that's already there. We're dealing with, working with Clark Patterson Lee, our on-call engineer, to proceed as soon as possible after the IGA, intergovernmental agreement, is adopted with the county on these. And I also, further, when it comes to sidewalks, I also received a set of plans at the end of last week from the county for the east side of North Road, which the improvements that are planned there are very substantial. We're talking about over a mile of sidewalk, 6,600 feet of curb and gutter, and about 4,200 feet of storm drain. We'll be working with them and then working with the residents along that route, going over that project as it proceeds. So that is that's a lot of good sidewalk and pedestrian amenities for the city of Snellville. In our work session, Mr. Powell mentioned that we had finally completed all of our property acquisition on the LCI project, the streetscape and pedestrian amenity project in our central city area along Oak, Clower, and Wisteria. And we also received a long sought and hoped for letter from our project manager, Crystal Dixon, at the end of last week that basically said the construction agreement has finally been executed by GDOT. It has to go to the district office, and they will send you a copy along with a notice to proceed to start construction. So very good timing. Property gets taken care of. We get our notice to proceed, so we'll be, over the course of the next 2 weeks, we'll be meeting with the contractor, setting up property owner meetings as well as utility meetings. So hopefully we'll see some real progress there over the course of the next 30 to 60 days. We'll see groundbreaking there. One other thing, we lost John Davis, our Community Development Director, to the City of Norcross. In the interim, I have appointed Jason Thompson as the interim director. Jason has experience as the director from several years ago, I believe. He's learned a lot from John, and as we conduct our search, Jason will be the interim director. And finally, I missed the last meeting. I missed that whole week of wonderful weather that we had here in Snellville with snow and ice. And I just want to thank Roy Whitehead and the staff, especially the Public Works Department, for doing a wonderful job during that week in my absence. Thank you all, and just another reason why I enjoy working with you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to back up. I said we had no invited guests, and I don't believe he needs to make a report, but we have Chris Gardner, who is the chair of the Evermore CID, with us tonight. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Gardner. Under consent agenda, we have no consent agenda. Under old business, public hearing, there is no old business and there is no public hearing. New business, we have consideration and action on design plan for improvements to the town green. Councilman Howard.
Thank you, Mayor. Butch, could you give us a little bit of an update on this? And I would ask that we just move this item to the second meeting in March for action.
We received a couple of proposals for engineering and survey work on to complete the town green. We received one from Root Design Studio and one from the Foresight Group. We are just in the early stages of evaluating those proposals. They're very solid. These firms have an awful lot of experience, and we will be ready to bring a recommendation to you at that time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sanders. You know, our town green, who's been to an event on the town green? And, I hope every hand in here would go up. But we want to go ahead and try to make some improvements to it. Maybe it's not the long range, thing we're hoping for as we move toward our town center. But I think there's some amenity things that we can do with our SPLOST funds that are available that are tied directly to that project. So I think we just want to enhance what we got and make it a little more enjoyable and have it so that, we can use it maybe for even a few other functions. So that's kind of what the whole deal is with the town green improvements.
Additional comments? Councilman Witts?
No, I just, Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda
we're not there yet.
when
Do you have
you're
any
done,
comments
right.
on this right
No,
now?
I don't.
Okay. Additional comments? Mr. Sanders, can you provide a copy of those two proposals to mayor and council tomorrow, please?
I sure can. I'll copy everything.
And as many of y'all remember, at the last council meeting, I provided pictures of some drawings we had gotten previously about 3 years ago on improvements to the town green. So this is a continuation of that landscaping and possibly some signage, maybe a retaining wall, a small low-lying brick wall out there. But we'll have to see what these proposals entail. Councilman Howard, it's my understanding you made a motion to postpone until the next council meeting. Is there? Second meeting in March. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Councilman Emmanuel. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The agenda item is postponed. Councilman Witz, you had a motion?
Yes. Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to amend the agenda, item D, the appropriation for the Marcy Ferris Volunteer of the Year Award.
There's a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 5 in favor. All those opposed, that's 1 opposed. The agenda stands amended. That brings us then to item number B, consideration and action on approval of the surplus of police vehicles. We have 2 Impalas that, as the chief told us in the work session, have broken transmissions. We're asking that these be declared surplus so that we can auction them if possible on eBay or some other service. Do I have a motion to approve the surplus of these vehicles? There's a motion by Councilman Emmanuel. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilman Howard. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed? That is 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Item C, we have approval of the answer counterclaim, motion to intervene, other responsive motions and pleadings in Couts versus City Council, City Manager, City Clerk, Civil Action File Number 14-A00747-10, filed by Couts in the Superior Court of Gwinnett County, and funding of defense costs for staff and alternative counsel for City Council. Before we go to this motion, I have a brief statement to make. On Tuesday, February 18th, 2014, Mr. Powell, along with my attorneys, Ms. Karnashek and Ms. Miller, had a conference call with Judge Warren Davis, the judge assigned to this case. During this conference, the judge made it clear that the city is not a party to this case and that city meetings should not be used to address this matter. Upon those statements, based upon the judge's statements, I do not believe that this is an appropriate agenda item. I don't believe that this is something that this approval of answer, counterclaim, and motion to intervene have not been made public. The motion to intervene is to add the city as a party, which is not an appropriate motion, and which has not been made available to the public or to myself before it was put on this agenda. Regardless of how I believe this is inappropriate, I don't believe that I should vote in this matter. I don't believe that any council member should vote in this matter. This is a matter that involves individuals, not the city. It's something I filed against individual members of this council and against staff, but not against the city as a whole, so I don't believe it's appropriate for any of us to vote on that. Unfortunately, under our city charter, an abstention is a vote for something, so I cannot abstain from voting on this matter. So I have to recuse myself from voting on this, so that it's not a vote for it. So at this time, I will recuse myself from this matter.
Mr. Powell?
Mayor Pro Tem Witz, I think it's appropriate at this time that you acknowledge the surrender of the chair and the establishment of you as the chair of the meeting as Mayor Pro Tem. And that requires a vote of council.
I'd like to make a motion that the chair has been vacated. So I'd like to make a motion to make Tom Witz the chair of the meeting for this agenda item.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's 5 in favor, unanimous. Floor is yours, Mr. Powell.
Mayor Pro Tem and council, as you know, we've had a very difficult time gathering for the purpose of getting instructions, and we've tried to do this in executive session a couple of times, and unfortunately, our adversary in this matter insisted on being present for those executive sessions, which makes it necessary for our office as lawyers for the city to get authority some way, and this is the only method that I have in terms of seeking authority. We had to engage in a little bit of a difficult process and somewhat expensive in that in order to clarify the terms of answer in this case, we had to communicate that so that each of you has copies of the defensive pleadings that we've asked that you approve tonight, and have made your comments, taken your comments, shared those comments with each other in a way so that everybody knew what this answer looks like in advance. It is a privileged communication, as we talked about in the work session. It was necessary that we still maintain the attorney-client privilege with regard to communication, so I'd ask you not to discuss anything that would be attorney-client privilege. You've been provided these documentations as appropriate. Asking for the approval of the answer and counterclaim as you've seen it, the motions, and particularly a request for authority to seek sanctions in this case with regard to the law firm that is representing the mayor. We're seeking, as a result of a motion to disqualify our law firm as city attorney, there's a necessity that we do a finding under Rule 1.13, and that is get your approval as a group for you to individually sign a waiver pursuant to Section Rule 1.13G. It appears to me that as council and as the city representatives, the representatives of the city in this case, that it would be that is an appropriate remedy in which to allow our law firm to continue in the role of representing you. It is particularly important in this case because we're so familiar with the previous case that is currently pending. Obviously, one of the motions is there are already all of these issues pending before Judge Hamill in his case, and that becomes an extremely costly event if another law firm comes in and has to deal with that. I think, and we've obviously consulted with counsel for our law firm to make sure we're on solid ethical ground, and we will have counsel at Friday's hearing on the disqualification in order to explain that very clearly. But Rule 1.13G waivers is a part of that process, and it would be a part of the motion that I would ask that you make. We are obviously entering into a costly event. There is a motion to exclude our law firm, so you got at least two law firms that potentially could be involved. You've got also another law firm that would be necessary in order to represent the members of your staff and others who have special counterclaim issues that may arise that would be in conflict with the city attorney's office. And so for that reason, the estimate that I've used is not one I pulled out of the air. I think it's very conservative, and it's a rebudgeting of almost $100,000. That was the number the judge used in our telephone conference the other day. And frankly, that's not what I'm saying. The judge didn't endorse that number. I'm just saying that I endorse that number because I think that is, now it's not something that we would pay immediately. This would be incurred over time, but the resolution gives instruction to the city manager to start budgeting the process and getting prepared for that. In the one thing that I wanted to go back, those are the things that I'm requesting as far as the answer is concerned, but with regard to the sanctions issue, I wanted to explain that to council so that you had a very clear understanding. What I'm showing you is Section 2.29 of your city charter, and these are the powers of the mayor. And this is straight from the Georgia Session Laws, which is the governing document that holds your charter as a matter of official record. And what you're looking at is 2.29 in 2001 when it was adopted. You had a strong mayor form of government. And in that, the mayor was the chief executive officer, and it set out some specific powers. And you'll see those powers highlighted in yellow as you see it on the screen. Now this is the, and I can't quite, let me fold it over. Okay. Can you zoom down? You're looking at the bottom portion, which is provisions 8 through 12 of that power provision, and you'll see number 8 says, be the chief executive of the city, possess all the executive and administrative powers granted to the city under the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia, and all the executive and administrative powers contained in this charter, except as otherwise specifically provided for in this charter, have the authority to delegate And it goes on and on. Appoint, remove, confirm, city council, all officers, all department heads, all employees, require any department or agency of the city. And so 8 through 12 are surefire power provisions for the mayor. And that's the way it was in 2001, and it stayed that way until 2004. When the city manager form was adopted, you can see this is again, the session law. You see it pulls over the first two provisions of that same power provision of 2.29 and goes through section 7 of that provision. And that's where the mayor's powers ended. So the legislature intentionally stripped the mayor in 2004 of executive powers by affirmative action. Now this isn't an area of dispute or gray. This is the law that when we approach the court, we are compelled to bring the court the law as it reads. This is not hard to find. You just look it up under the city of Snellville, under local legislation, and these follow each other perfectly. And you can see it's the intent of this legislature to strip 8 through 10 of those power provisions, and that's where the legislature, this council had nothing to do with that. And the lawyers in this case are required to bring this law to our case and expose it. What they've done is they've pled in their pleadings the opposite. They've represented both in public and into the court, which is the most important, a sanctionable mischaracterization of the law. That's the sanction that we're seeking to be approved in the motion. There's a second one that's almost as egregious, and it deals with section 2.21 and the Open Meetings Act. As you can see from 2.21 in your current charter, the mayor and 3 council members shall constitute a quorum. That's really unusual in Georgia law to have that vested, where the mayor has to be present in order to have a quorum. So the term quorum is the prerequisite requirement for a meeting under the Georgia Open Meetings Act. So if you don't have the mayor and 3 council members present, you don't, as a matter of law, have a quorum. And you could say, and the argument has been made and it's been represented to the court, that, oh, well, if the mayor's not in the room, then the mayor pro tem could be in the room. And obviously the facts of this case could be in dispute. People say, well, there were 3 of them in the room, some 4. Those are matters of fact, but these are matters of law. And the important part is section 2.28, which is the authority of the mayor pro tem to act, as you did tonight. In order for the mayor pro tem to assume the duties, there have to be 2 things. There has to be factually a disability or an absence of the mayor, and there has to be an action taken by a majority of council to displace the mayor because of that absence. There's no allegation of that. There's no truth in that. You'd be idiots to do that. To take that action would make you violate. You'd have to really step out to create a quorum like an idiot in order to violate the law. And so those are not factual disputes. Those are not factual disputes. These are legal requirements. And for that reason, for those 2 reasons, those are the 2 sanctions that we are seeking to respond to. They're targeted specifically at the attorneys who are involved in the case out of their duty. My hope is that between now and Friday, they will wake up and do some research and take a look at what Mr. Webb in our law firm calls the red-eyed law, and because it's important to their future that they do that. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions of them?
Yeah, would you, I just want a point of clarification. In 2004, when the charter was changed, that had nothing to do with who was on council or any other personal issues. That was due to the fact that we changed from a mayor-council to a council-manager form of government. Is that correct?
All I can do is guess at what was the norm. The norm is for the city manager, which the GMA was pushing everybody to move to, as a professional leadership in your city as far as the executive branch and administration of your city. You bring trained professionals in rather than elected amateurs, and so that was the push. And so So that is a general reflection of what was going on in almost every city in the state of Georgia and was being pushed by the administration of the municipal association. When that occurred, there were different levels of changes that occurred, and some mayors kept more authority than others, but it just depended on what the charter did. So I can't speculate on that, and that's really not, I'm sure that former Mayor Oberholzer would probably know all of the details of how that was done. He would have been right in the midst of that, but it does give the impression that the city asked for that. What's important to me is the legislature's actions, because in interpreting any statutory law, you are really taking a close look at the intent of the legislature. And when paragraphs 8 through 12 are in there one minute and gone the next, it is a clear mark of the legislature's intent to strip those powers away.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to authorize the city attorney and special outside counsel to prepare and file all defensive pleadings, answers, counterclaims, motions, and appropriate sanctions in both pending cases filed by Kelly Couts on behalf of all named defendants in the city of Snellville. I move that all defendant members of council, for themselves and for the city, are hereby authorized to enter into a written consent to representation as described in Rule 1.13 and Rule 1.13G of the State Bar of Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct and Responsibility, individually and on behalf of the city of Snellville, with the city attorney and special counsel as necessary. Finally, I move to fund the legal fees, including special counsel, as necessary to defend the cases filed by Kelly Couts against the city council members, city manager, and city clerk to prosecute all issues and claims presented in those cases. The city manager is directed to propose such budget amendments as are necessary to provide legal, professional, and expert fees necessary in the cases, and to make such budget amendments as are necessary to respond to the cases up to $100,000. That is my motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion as read by Councilmember Bender signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. I'll return the chair to Kelly Couts.
Okay, that brings us to item number D, appropriation of funds for the Marcy Ferris Volunteer of the Year dinner. Councilman Witt.
As I stated earlier in the work session, for those of you that weren't there, let me explain exactly what we're doing. In 2011, we established by resolution the Marcy Ferris Volunteer of the Year Award. This is an award that's be given out annually, and Marcy Ferris was the first official honoree of that award, so that's why it's named after her. And it's run by members from all the different volunteer organizations in the city. Each one of them submits their nominee, and then the committee evaluates those nominees, and then on March 8th, they're going to announce who the Volunteer of the Year is. Probably the most important group of people in the city, much more important than the council, and much more important probably than some members of staff, not of course anyone sitting up here, are the volunteers, because they really do make things happen for us in a community way. They were right there with staff. I certainly don't mean to put staff down, I was joking. But much more important than any members of the council is the volunteers, because although we see things and we see things we want to do, they're the ones that actually take the bull by the horns and get it done. I'm going to ask my fellow members of the council tonight to approve a $1,000 donation to the Marcy Ferris Volunteer of the Award dinner. taken from our contingency fund. We have a $20,000 a year contingency fund. We have not used any of that money yet, so I'm requesting the city manager, if this passes, that $1,000 comes from that contingency fund. And I tried to figure today, while I was at work, how much an hour that would be for the volunteers of the city. And you know what? It comes out to pennies. You know, pennies an hour for all these people who come and do this work for the city at the garden, at the market, at the Snellville days, at all the festivals, at the Rotary, at the Lions Club. I mean, these people are dedicated to what they do. So my motion is that we authorize city manager to allocate $1,000 from our contingency fund to the Marcy Ferris Volunteer of the Year dinner. I believe the money is going to be used for plaques and also for paying for the dinner of the people who are nominated for the Volunteer of the Year. And it's a little bit higher this year because we are getting a big plaque for City Hall. It'll hang in City Hall, and whoever wins that award every year, whose name will be put on that plaque. Okay? So that's my motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bender. Further discussion?
Yes, please. Those that have volunteered in the past with our city, would y'all stand up, please, in any capacity? Farmers market, I mean, anything. Regina, you're not standing up. Michelle Couch, you're not standing up. Don't make me point anybody else out. I will embarrass you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for what you do. Let's give all these folks a round of applause. This is what it's all about right here.
Councilman Woods, you said this money is going to be donated. Who is it being donated to?
It'll be donated to the committee that runs the Marcy Ferris Volunteer of the Year dinner.
And so, who is that committee, or how were they established, or what organization are they a part of? Or?
It was established by the chairman of it is a member of the STAT board. So I guess the STAT is the one that put it together. Is that right? Ms. Chapelier, would you like to explain how you did that? Or you want me to, you solicited volunteers. It's STAT.
But is it a STAT organization
pay it
that
for
we're
us.
making a donation to STAT?
Pardon me?
We're making a donation to
But
STAT?
it'll be a pass-through from STAT. It's going to be to the committee.
Right, but is that who the actual donation is going to then, would be STAT?
But the check would probably be made out to STAT, and they would distribute.
Okay.
From that account.
Right.
Pay for the dinners for the nominees and the winner.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the agenda item as stated signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Now for our council reports, Councilwoman Bender.
No report tonight, but thank you all for coming out.
Councilman Witz.
I want you to look up at the screen as soon as Erica gets that. Well, while we're waiting for that, let me talk to you a little bit about what we heard tonight. Some really, really good news. The city manager talked to us about new sidewalks on Oak Road. This has been, the sidewalks and Oak Road Park have been something that has been kind of a contentious item in the city since as far back as I can remember, and probably certainly before I was on council. Last fall, we had meetings with our county commissioner, Tommy Hunter, and just asked him, how do we get this all done? He laid down a road plan for us. He said, first of all, make sure you get some money, somebody started on the park, get the trees cleared out, so that we can establish that it is a park. Then next, make sure that the city council is agreed to partake in the installation of the sidewalks. He would make sure that the county had it on their priority list, and also that we had the gentleman who's, or our representative to the SPOS board, do the same thing. Obviously, his plans worked because, as we heard tonight, one of the top two items on the SPLOSTs are the sidewalks down to Mountain View, which will now make our park, Oak Road Park, much more effective. Now, more than 16 homes will be able to get to the park without walking down the street. And we'll have a crosswalk at Mountain View so that people can get from the other side, can get across and get to the park. So that's the way it should have been done. It's been done. And now, once we get the confirmation that we've got the sidewalks going in and that's all ready to roll, then we need to look to the next part, and that's to complete the park. So it all worked. It took 3 steps to get it done, but we got it done. It looks like we're going to have it done within a year or a year and a half. Let's all keep our fingers crossed that that continues to move forward. The next exciting thing is I don't know if all of you drove by City Hall and the Senior Center, but here's the pictures for you, and here's a few pictures. We moved dirt today. And and I'm very happy to say, for Mr. Sabah in the back, we didn't even hit pebbles, let alone granite. We did good. There's no granite at all. It was nice, clear fill dirt we were able to move, and looks like we'll be pouring concrete either this week or the first part of next week. So that's great. We plan probably mid-April it'll be completed. We're going to plan now for a Memorial Day celebration and a dedication and lighting the torch for Memorial Day. So I'm just thrilled to see that there's no grass where the monument's going to be. That's a step in the right direction. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Councilman Howard?
Well, there's nobody in this room more happier to see the dirt moved than that man sitting right there. Everybody agree? Thank y'all for doing that. That's something that I think and I speak for a lot of folks, that's going to be a very wonderful thing for our city, and it's going to absolutely be another shining star that we have. And I publicly want to thank you, Tom, and there's many to thank in this regard. And I know I won't get them all, but thank you for your efforts to do that. All right, Erica, just a few else. A little sad news. The city of Snellville lost a tremendous supporter. I know the community garden folks, Gretchen, Kurt, you guys, there's a lot of folks, Kathy, knew Howard Phillips, and told myself I wasn't going to do this. Diane says, take a deep breath. Howard became more than just an associate at Lowe's with me. He became my friend. And I miss him dearly. He was at the head of the line for our community stuff. Our community garden, our schools, the Skills USA things. Over the 7 years or so that I was, got to know him, we got to be buddies. We had a business relationship, but we were buddies. And I just wanted to make sure that this community knew, quietly, with a big heart, he was always doing things that you would never know about. So when you go into Lowe's, they had that little display there. That's his vest, and the family, agreed to let him do that. So I just felt very strongly about it. I needed to say that tonight. So, all right, one more. Buy local. Be safe going home. Thank y'all for coming.
Councilman Kraus?
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. Last Thursday, I had a meeting with the city's emergency management team, and that was Butch and the chief and Melissa, Lieutenant McKinney, Gay and Craig and myself. And the purpose of it was to look at what happened during the ice storms, what happened to the city, who worked, who didn't, what was good, what we need to improve, what we didn't have, and what we need to have. And I anticipated going into great detail tonight because I believe You, the people, need to know what your city did during the shutdown, both times, while we closed the entire city for those days. And I wanted to be able to give you some numbers. I wanted to be able to tell you the people's names that worked hard, that were out there, that slept on floors, that really did a lot of things that y'all don't know about. Y'all would not be aware of what the staff did during that time. And so I promise you, at the next council meeting, I am going to stand at the podium, and I'm going to give you some numbers and some names, and I'm going to tell you what exactly was done, because it's important that you know what your city did to make sure that you were safe during that time. And so I will return with a more detailed report. Thank you, and drive home safely.
Councilman Emmanuel.
I think it's time to embarrass a few people. Craig Barton and Gay Johnson, would you please stand? A round of applause, please. There was a dump truck overturned on 124, and of course the police were there doing their usual excellent job, but they really didn't have the means to pick up, I don't know how many tons of sand, and Craig Barton with his crew came out there and made a kind of a nasty situation from the standpoint of traffic delays and all the inconvenience go away a lot faster than it would have. And Craig's always out there doing something, and he just puts in an awful lot of time. I don't think he or Gay get the recognition, and there are a lot of other people in public works. So when you're annoyed because your garbage didn't get picked up, it's not their fault, that's a contract. But these people are out there all the time working for the city, and we're fortunate to have such a great crew. I just want them to be recognized. That's all I have. Have a good ride home and be safe.
Okay. Now for the mayor's report, before I get to the pictures here, I got a couple things. First, I want to wish congratulations to Judge Michael Clark. Many of you may know Judge Michael Clark, some of you may not, but Judge Clark has been a Superior Court judge for over 20 years, and his last day on the bench is going to be Friday. He's entering private practice. He has tendered his retirement to the governor, and we are going to miss Judge Clark. He was an asset to our community, and so we thank him for his years of service to the Gwinnett County bench. Also want to congratulate the Brookwood High School Orchestra, who competed this weekend and received all superior rankings, and the Brookwood High School wrestling team this weekend. Because of the snowstorm, the state wrestling championships were delayed, and they were held this weekend, and the Brookwood wrestling team ranked 10th in the state overall for their team. They had several state placers, so great job to all those young men. Pictures. This is Miss Wanda Young. Again, a congratulations to her for being recognized as the Senior Center, not to be confused with the other Volunteer of the Year, but this is the Senior Center Volunteer of the Year. She's been a volunteer for our city for 17 years and has always been willing to serve whenever Lisa Platt, our Parks Director of the Senior Center, has asked for something. She also, in 2012, was a recipient of the President's Volunteer Service Award, so she's not only an asset to our senior center, but to our community as a whole. So thank you to Ms. Young for her dedication to our community. That's all you got? I emailed you earlier. All right, well, I'll have to remember what they were so I can make sure I comment about them. One was a picture of the snow. I guess we're thinking similar tonight because I wanted to show a picture of the snow. It's hard to believe that that was just a couple of weeks ago. We were covered in snow, but the reason for showing that was because we do have an excellent staff. The chief and members of his police department and Craig and members of the Public Works crew spent the night here. The chief at the police department, the Public Works department, and Gay was a good mama to all her employees and made them food and brought them food. But we do have a need. It did open us up that we do have a need when we have emergency situations like that. We need some bedding in case people need to stay overnight. And as the chief told me, we need to be able to cook because they ate maybe peanut butter and jelly or some type of sandwiches for the time that they were stuck in the police department. We have a nice break room there, but no cooking. So Councilman Kraus, when you do your report, that's something we need to look into. These men and women give their time and their service to our community, and so we need to make sure that we take appropriate care of them. But we thank the staff for all their dedication. I don't think we had any major accidents or any major problems during the snowstorm, and that's because we had such a fabulous staff that was prepared. The chief was filling in for Butch then, and you did an excellent job in leading us, so thank you, Chief, for your service. Also, I'm trying to remember my mayor's report since I don't have the pictures. Saturday night, I had the opportunity to host the Overcomers House annual gala. It was held here at Snellville City Hall. And Overcomers House, if you're not familiar with it, is a Snellville nonprofit organization. Their office is on High Point Road, and it was really eye-opening for me to attend this event. They've come to council before and made a presentation. They've asked us to be able to use the town green before. Unfortunately, that wasn't approved, but they have helped 13,000 families this year alone in our community. They provide a food pantry. They provide backpacks to needy students. They run a thrift store and provide clothing and other needs. And so they're a great organization right here in our city. So I encourage all of you to become familiar with Overcomers House and see how you can give. They had tremendous volunteers there. Everything from citizens down the street to Bank of America and CNN that support this great nonprofit organization. So it was really eye-opening to see what's happening here in our community. And then lastly, I believe I had pictures from Run the Reagan. That was the weekend of Valentine's Day. Saturday, February 15th, was the 20th anniversary of the Run the Reagan. It was a fabulous event, and so I want to thank Dwight Harrison and the Gwinnett Community Clinic for putting that on. It really is an ambassador for our city. It's one of the best, has one of the best reputations in the state of Georgia for a road race. It's a half marathon, a 10K, and a 5K. I was fortunate enough to be the honorary chair. I got to start the 5K race. Chief was chair of the 1 mile or 10K, I can't remember. He started one of those races. Again, the chief and his officers, it was very cold at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning that day. It warmed up as the day went on, but it was very cold, and the chief and the officers were out there, and so were all the volunteers, and I had some pictures of the volunteers to show. They got up to make sure the runners had everything they needed. Eastside Hospital is a great sponsor of that. So it was an event with another event showing our community coming together. The Gwinnett Community Clinic is another nonprofit organization located here in the city of Snellville, founded in the city of Snellville, and it helps those that don't have health insurance. It's a group of doctors that provide free medical care to those in need. So we have great events happening in our community. I encourage everyone, you hear about the events we have on the town green all the time, but we have events beyond that going on in our community. I encourage all of you to find out about these different organizations and to get involved. With that will conclude my mayor's report. I will now open the floor with public comments. I know we had somebody sign up, but I don't have the sheet. Ms. Creasy, was it you?
Catherine Creasy, 2829 Adela Court. I wanted to tell y'all about an incident I had in my front yard. I've got a culvert there, and it was starting to sink and develop a hole in it. And I took a little stick and put it in the hole, and it went all the way through into the culvert. So I immediately went in and called Public Works Department. Well, they were out there that same day. Took a look at it, they came out right away, took a look at it, and put yellow tape all around it so nobody would walk across and fall in because the ground was so soft there. And the very next day, Public Works came out with the dirt to cover it all up and put hay on top of it so the rain wouldn't wash it away. And I just wanted to compliment them on such a great job they did and how fast they took care of the situation.
Thank you, Ms. Creasy. Additional public comment? Seeing none, the time is 8:19 and we are adjourned. Have a good evening.